Welcome to this episode of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. I'm Betsy Moore. The following program is one in a series of programs on various topics of public interest that concerns the Circuit Clerk's office, their various departments, and the issues they deal with. These programs are produced by the Office of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Tony Libri in the hope that the information contained in them will help you better understand the role and the scope of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office.
Welcome to this edition of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. Today's program is on expungements. It is one of the topics that was selected by our viewing audience to help navigate the citizenry of Sangamon County through the court system, if you will. And we are accompanied today by two fine gentlemen who are going to help us navigate through the process called expungements. We have the Assistant State's Attorney, Mr. Dan Moser, to my right, and Mr. Greg Kluckman from the Circuit Clerk's office, and we're here to talk about that. Gentlemen, let's begin with you, Dan, the lawyer of the bunch here. What is an expungement?
Well, I would call an expungement a legal proceeding to wipe away somebody's criminal record from the public records.
Mm-hmm. Why is that important? Why does somebody want something expunged?
I think the most important reason is for employment reasons.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to apply to be in the military, to go to nursing school, to other professional schools, or even just work in a retail store, they do background checks, and if you have a record of an arrest or a conviction that you had in the past, and you don't want them finding out about that, an expungement or a petition to seal is what you're going to want to do.
Well, as both of you know, this is a topic that comes up every day in the Circuit Clerk's office. We get, on some days, 1,000 people a day at our front counter, and this is probably one of the more popular things right now. And you're right, I think it's because people are trying to get into the military or trying to get a better job, and they want something that they've done in their past taken off their record. So first of all, we know what an expungement is, but what is expungible?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're talking just about expungements, it's a pretty limited category of records.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been convicted of a criminal offense, then you can't expunge that in Illinois.
All right, so if you've been convicted, that's an important word, convicted of a criminal offense, is a misdemeanor offense a criminal offense?
It is. Any felony, misdemeanor, even some misdemeanors under the traffic code, if it's a Class A or Class B, for instance, driving on a revoked license, if you're convicted of that, you can't expunge it. If, let's say, reckless driving, DUI, convictions of those things cannot be expunged. And, of course, any other felony or misdemeanor. So expungement is going to be useful if you have an arrest record that you weren't convicted of, or if you got a sentence of supervision. Court supervision in Illinois is not a conviction. That is expungible.
So you might have committed a crime but weren't convicted of it. You were given supervision, which technically means you're not convicted, I guess.
That's correct.
But you are still, you're not saying you're not guilty, you're just saying the court has has given you what, a probationary type of?
Right, a period in which you're not supposed to get any further offenses, and if you don't, the offense is considered dismissed. Okay. But that record of a supervision stays on your record.
And that's the key point. Okay, so again, if you have committed an offense, but were found not a criminal offense, but were found not guilty, those can be expunged.
Correct. A lot of people think that if a certain amount of time passes, or if you weren't convicted, it just drops off your record. But that's not correct. You still have a record that you were arrested.
Right.
And those records are expungible.
And those records are open to the public, and those records are often viewed by potential employers or the military or whatever. As an example, if you're going to apply for a concealed carry license in Illinois, I'm sure though your record would be scrutinized there, and that might be a reason why somebody would want something taken off their record, I would assume.
That could be, yes, or even just applying for a job. If you're applying at a retail store, they're going to look and see whether you've been arrested for retail theft.
All right, so the purpose of this law, this law that allows for expungements, I assume is to help people who have made mistakes in their past where there's some leeway there where the court will grant you that latitude that, okay, you really weren't convicted, so we're willing to let this go. So based on that assumption, let's say that you're a viewer out there and then you know that you committed an offense but weren't convicted. You were given supervision 10 years ago, and you find out now that it's on your record. You thought it would be gone by now, but it's not off your record because your new employer just said, I can't hire you because of this. They're going to come and see someone like you, Mr. Kluckman, at our front window there.
Yes.
What are they going to say to you?
Well, a lot of them come in and they ask what can they do to get their record expunged. We ask them, there's expungements, there's seals. We ask them which would be best for their case.
And they probably don't know the difference, and we're going to ask your legal opinion on what the difference is.
Correct.
So they come to you and said, I want this taken off my record.
Yeah, we give them a packet. We have expungement packets that they do fill out. They can take it home and fill them out. They can fill them out here in the office, our office, and then turn them right back in immediately. We look them over then to make sure they're correctly filled out, completely filled out, that they have their case number, their date of arrest, and the arresting agency are three main things that they need to know. If they do not know that, we can look that up for them in the office. We said we look everything over to make sure it's all correct. We have the paperwork notarized in our office. There is no charge for that. Once that's completely done, we send them next door to the state's attorney's office to drop off the paperwork.
That's his office, okay.
Yeah, for Dan and that. And so then they look at to see if it can be expunged or it cannot be expunged.
All right, so these are some of the forms that you have.
Yes.
They're voluminous, no doubt. I mean, what kind of questions, may I see some of them? What are some of the questions they ask?
Well, number one would be like, the case number.
Right.
they
What
would-
was the offense, that type of thing?
Yes.
All right.
Date of arrest, arresting agency.
So this is the packet that you would get.
Yes.
Now, we do not have attorneys in the circuit clerk's office, and we're not allowed to give advice, legal advice. So, but you would tell them this is, you just need to fill out these questions,
Yes.
which are pretty easy to answer, I would assume.
Yes. And if they do need help, I'll refer them to the Office of the State Appellate Defender.
Right.
They do give free legal help on filling out these forms. They also have a website that they can go to download the forms.
And we'll give that information on this program
Yes.
later, sure.
And so, like I said, they do get help filling out the forms from that agency.
Okay, so now that they've gone to Mr. Kluckman's office and gotten all the paperwork and they've gotten these things completed, then you refer them to the state's attorney's office. And Mr. Moser here is probably somebody that, are you the only guy that does this in the department, or is this your thing over there?
Right now, yes, this is me.
I never say specialty to attorneys because you don't have specialties, but this is something that you're well versed in, that you could help them. So you're the guy that we would refer them to.
Correct.
So what happens? They go see Mr. Kluckman, then they come and see you. What are you telling these people now that they've got these forms filled out?
Well, I personally can't give people legal advice on how to fill the forms out.
Right.
But our office will pre-clear your form and make sure you are eligible and make sure that your form is true and applies to you. So when people come from the circuit clerk's office to our office, they simply drop off the form with a contact number, and I'll check through it and make sure the person's eligible.
All right. So you'll look at what the offense was, you'll cross-reference it with our records, and then you'll go, uh-oh, this guy must not know about this or something. Would you then contact him or her? Or?
Yes. Then you'll get your form back, and depending on the reason, you might be simply out of luck, as we talked about. Not everyone is eligible to expunge. Not everyone is eligible to seal. It just depends on what the offense is and what your criminal record is. It might be simply a matter of time because there are waiting periods depending on your offense. To seal, it typically has to be 4 years after.
After everything has been served and paid.
4 years from the termination of your sentence,
Right.
in other words. So it could be a no, you're not eligible, and it could be no, you're not eligible right now to seal.
All right, if you both have mentioned the word seal. Let's talk about that. Let's say that we find out that Tony Libri just got his packet back, and Dan says, no, Tony, because you were convicted, we cannot grant you, or we can't pursue this any further. You're not eligible for an expungement. However, if your goal is to have this taken off your record or kept from a future employer, what options do I have? What is this sealing business?
Okay. Well, sealing is similar to expungement, but it's not quite as strict. For one thing, you can potentially seal some types of criminal convictions, which you wouldn't be able to expunge. There are still requirements, and as I mentioned, there is still a waiting period. It's actually longer for sealing. It's typically 4 years from the end of your sentence for what you're trying to seal. Now, like expungement, you've got to fill out a petition. You've got to make sure that you read the petition and that it all applies to you. But if you are eligible to seal, the advantage is that that hides your criminal record from the general public, including employers.
So the judge seals your case? Is that what that means?
In effect, yes. Nobody can look at your conviction or arrest, whatever you're trying to seal.
So it's taken off of the website and the public record at that point. Or what does it say that leads you to believe it's sealed? Does it say the case is sealed, or you just don't see it? Or
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you just don't see it if you're a member of the general public.
It's sealed and impounded so the general public cannot
okay, so they
see
don't
it.
know that it's there.
Yes.
So in some cases, that might be just as effective for you, just as helpful, having it sealed, especially if you're not qualified for an expungement. That's your next best bet, I would assume. Okay, we're going to take a break here in another couple of seconds here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the third alternative out there, which is really kind of a lot of work for somebody, and that's where you get a pardon. But we're going to talk about that when we return to Circuit Clerk Presents. Welcome back to this edition of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. We're talking with our two guests, Mr. Moser and Mr. Kluckman, about expungements. And right now we're talking about sealing of the court records, and we're finally getting ready to start talking about a governor's pardon, which is the third leg in this three-legged stool that you can have to kind of clear your record, so to speak. So we've talked about expungements, where if you're qualified, if you've not been convicted of a crime, and a certain amount of time has expired since you've completed all the requirements of your supervision, you are eligible for an expungement. But if you're not eligible for an expungement because you were convicted of a crime, as an example, you can apply for a sealing of the records from the court. We've talked about that. Now let's say you want to go a step further. What is the next step? What is left for someone who can't get an expungement or doesn't want their record sealed?
Well, about the only other option would be what's called executive clemency or a governor's pardon. And that's basically if you've been convicted and you're not eligible to expunge, not eligible to seal that record, the governor has the power to basically have mercy on you and allow you to expunge that.
Does that happen? Does it happen a lot?
Not often, but yes, I've had one.
I mean, it would have to be pretty compelling for the governor of a great state the size of Illinois, as an example, to say, okay, Greg Kluckman, I'm going to absolve you of your sins, basically. I mean, what is the process there to get the governor to do that? We don't handle that.
Contact the governor's office, and it's handled through the governor's office, and then they come over to our office with the executive clemency, and then we have a special form that we hand them.
Okay.
That's basically, it kind of runs along the same lines as the expungement form and the seal form. And they fill that out and turn it in just as they do it as the sealed form or the exempt form.
So that's something that's handled pretty much out of our office and your office.
Yes.
But I would imagine they would get the idea of how to begin that process through one of your two departments here. So, but it's not a very common thing, I would take it.
No.
Interesting. So let's go back to the process here of expungements. What are the dates that are involved? I mean, how long do you wait for certain convictions? Is it all the same time frame? Do you have to wait for, is a DUI an offense that's expungible if you weren't convicted of it?
Well, a DUI would not be expungible. So there are certain exemptions in the statute of offenses that the legislature has just said we don't want anybody to be able to expunge, and DUI is like that. If you've got supervision for a DUI, earlier I said supervision could be expunged, but DUI is just an exception.
Okay.
You cannot expunge that ever. And that's just part of the compromise that the legislature made to pass the expungement law. Now, the forms that you'll pick up either from the circuit clerk or from the state appellate defender's website, they'll tell you what kind of offenses are exceptions. And if you just read those forms, you will find out whether your offense can be expunged or not.
Now, as a matter of fact, that website is www.illinois.gov/OSAD,
Office of the State Appellate Defender.
Appellate Defender, okay. And on there, it'll have that information for you. And we'll flash that information again at the end of the program. So does everybody need an attorney to do this?
I wouldn't say that it's required because like a small claims case or any civil case, you can represent yourself. I wouldn't recommend it because the expungement laws are just very complicated, and an attorney is going to help you and guide you through the process. If you do try to represent yourself, it's really on you to be very careful.
You have to present your own case then, sure.
Right. And you know, there are no do-overs for people who aren't represented by attorneys. It's on you to fill out the correct form and fill it out correctly. So I would recommend that people get an attorney for even sealing and expungement, and certainly if you're trying for executive clemency,
right,
to have an attorney.
Okay, I'm sure there's a cost to all of this. What are the fees for this kind of thing?
Well, the first fee is a $60 fee payable when we receive the paperwork back from the state's attorney's office saying that this case can be expunged or it can be sealed. They would pay the $60 fee, and we would set them up with a court date that would be heard in front of the judge, which they do have to come to court that day to be in front of the judge or an attorney representing them. Then that is set out 60 days by state statute. So a lot of people think that...
What is set out 60 days? That they have to go to court within 60 days?
In between the time that they pay their fee and the date of the court.
All right.
Because a lot of people just think that they can come in and get this done in a week or two. It does take some time to get this done.
Yeah, this is going to take some work and time.
Yes. After that, the only other charge is when the day that they do come to court, they need a $60 money order made out to the Illinois State Police. The State Police also charges $60 to take the records off of their system.
All right, so that's 120 so far.
120 per case. That's per case.
Per case, okay.
Yes.
So every law enforcement, correct me if I'm wrong, every law enforcement agency that was involved in your arrest, are they consulted during this process saying, what does your department think of this individual asking for an expungement? Or?
A notice is sent out to the Illinois State Police, the arresting agency, and the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office that this person has came in and requested that this case be expunged or sealed.
And why do we notify them? What do they have to do with this? Do they say yes or no? Can they blackball you, so to speak?
They can object if they feel that this case cannot be expunged or sealed.
What kind of case can't be expunged? We talked about DUIs. Is there like, I'm thinking bank robbery, things like that. Can those kinds of things be expunged?
Well, only potentially if you were not convicted. So if you were just charged and, say, found not guilty or the charges were dismissed, that would be the only circumstance. And again, that's only if you have no convictions on your record.
Now, what about juveniles? Are the rules different from juveniles?
The rules are a little bit different. If somebody's interested in expunging a juvenile offense, I would just encourage them to go to that website of the State Appellate Defender, and they have forms for juvenile expungements as well, and instructions.
Now, will the Appellate Defender's Office give them legal advice? Will they help them navigate through this system, or do they just say, here's the forms, fill it out?
Well, they do have forms and instructions written on the website, but they also have a a number to call, and they will answer questions. They won't come with you and attend
Right.
court with you, but they will answer your questions.
They'll answer some basic, some generic questions to help you with that process. And let's get back to the money of it. So it's $120, and it could be more, I would assume, if your attorney charges X amount of dollars.
That's not including attorney's
Right.
fees.
So let's say, and we get these from time to time, people who said that they can't afford to have, to pay those bills for an expungement. What
Well,
allowances
we
do we
also
make for
have
them?
an application of a fee waiver, which they can come in, and we usually wait until the paperwork from Mr. Moser's office came back to us, and then that's when we have them come back in, and either they can pay the $60 or there's the application of a fee waiver they can fill out, which goes up to the judge, and it's up to the judge to either deny it, or they can agree with it and do the fee waiver, or sometimes they'll do a partial fee waiver. They'll waive maybe half the fee or charge them a small fee instead of the full $60.
So it's safe to say that the legal system is doing what they can within the boundaries that the law gives us to help these people get on with their lives. I realize, there's a lot of people, we're not one of them, I'm sure, but there are a lot of people who, when they were younger, did things that they regret at this age. I'm sure that's not any of us, but we just didn't get caught, maybe, that's it. But I mean, so we want to help people because some of these things they could have done many years ago. It was just a stupid thing, whatever it might have been, but it's hard to believe that it would be affecting you years down the road, and you're trying to raise your family and make a house payment, and you can't even get a job because of this, what you thought was an insignificant thing on your record.
Yes.
It's amazing. So is there a standard period of time that you wait? Where do people go to look and find out, look, I know I had this offense, I committed this offense, but I was given supervision 2 years ago. How long do I have to wait? Is there a different time frame for each type of violation? Or is there a generic one, hey, it's 4 years?
There are some different time frames, and they vary so much that it's hard to explain them all. But you mentioned expungement, so most offenses can be expunged 2 years if you got supervision, but that's from the end of the supervision.
Right. And supervision usually entails that you pay a fine, or you do a community service, or you do something that the court has approved to prove that they're happy that you've gone through this process. So you have to go through whatever that process is. So it could be community service as an example. So it's once you've completed all of those requirements and the court has said that you have now completed those requirements, it's at that point forward that the time starts. Is that correct?
That's
Is that how I
correct.
understand? Okay. So how does somebody find out what all these dates are?
Well, I would just tell people to read the form, whether you have a form for a petition to expunge or a petition to seal, and make sure that you get, for whatever offense you're trying to expunge, the date that you were convicted, the sentence you got, whether it's probation, supervision, or whatever, how many years that lasted, and when that ended. You're going to want to look at when your sentence ended. For sealing, it's the last criminal offense that you've had a sentence for, whichever one is last in time, and it's usually 4 years if you've got a conviction on your record. So you would go 4 years from the end of your sentence,
Right.
and that's when you're eligible.
4 years, okay. So a lot of things can happen in 4 years. So we recommend that you go to our website. We recommend that you call us, you come up and visit us. We'll do whatever we can to guide you through this process. But you had mentioned that there's free legal assistance for expungements. I have a little handy card here. Office of the State Appellate Defender. Telephone number is 866-787-1776, and the web address is www.illinois.gov/OSAD. Now, on that website, they actually have the same forms that we have. Is that not correct,
Correct,
Greg?
yes.
And you can actually fill out the forms on
On the website,
computer.
yes.
I would recommend they do that. I would assume you two would as well, because we get a lot of handwritten things, and sometimes you just can't read some of the writing, and that's, again, this is their best foot forward here. This is their case claiming why they should be expunged, and if you can't read their statements, it's probably best to have it typed out is what I'm trying to
Yes.
say. So what percentage of people that apply for expungements get them? Any idea? I mean, is there a good chance if you meet the requirements you're going to get an expungement?
If you meet the requirements, yes, I think there's a good chance. As we might have mentioned, the state police and my office, the state's attorney's office, can object. But if you meet the requirements for eligibility, I think in most cases you will get your offense expunged.
Why would the state's attorney's office or the state police object?
Well, basically, it just if you are eligible, let's say, so if you're eligible to expunge or seal, you probably don't have a very terrible criminal record.
Right.
So the only reason we would object would be if there's some aspect of the offense that means the public's right to know what you did outweighs your interest in having what you did hidden from the public. It's, I would think, the rare case.
Right. So if you'll take the initiative and pay actually it's a small amount when you consider that your future's on the line here, in essence the $120, this could be something this is a life changer for some people.
That's right.
People that come to our office and apply at your window, are they mostly young people? Are they older people?
They're of all ages.
Because I've noticed an uptick in expungement requests just in the last couple of years, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that's caused that.
I think a lot more maybe of the employers are checking backgrounds for people that apply for jobs.
And again, this is a game changer for a lot of people, so we'll do what we can for you. If you'll come into the circuit clerk's office, which is at room 405 of the Sangamon County Court Complex, 200 South 9th Street here in Springfield, Illinois. Now, Dan, you are an assistant state's attorney. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We got about a minute to go here, so let's...
all right. Well,
I hear you're a wildcat.
that is true.
The Northwestern type,
Northwestern
okay.
University undergrad and University of Iowa Law School, and I was lucky enough to be hired at the state's attorney's office about 3 years ago, and I've worked there ever since. It's a great place to work.
Well, we're glad to hear that. It's dedicated attorneys like you that help people get through this system. And Greg, you've been a blessing to our office. You've been here how many years now?
Well, a couple years now.
And they said it wouldn't last. Come on. No, you've been a great help. Now, and you were a member of the business community before you came here, so you see a lot of things on both sides of your service window where you could say, you know what, I worked in the private sector. I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's quality, well-intentioned people like this that are going to help you if you come in to the circuit clerk's office for help. And again, if you are interested in an expungement or having your court records sealed, the place to begin is at the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office, right here in room 405 of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's building, or you can call the Office of the State Appellate Defender at 866-787-1776, or go to www.illinois.gov/OSAD. You can go directly there and actually fill out the forms there, and then you come see somebody in our office. If it's not Greg, it'll be one of his assistants, and we'll be glad to take care of you. We hope you enjoyed and got something out of this edition of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. This program was on expungements. If you would like to see us talk about some other subjects, please contact us at the address you see on your screen. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. These programs are produced by the Office of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Tony Libri for your benefit and to help you in your interaction with the court system. They're accessible on the Circuit Clerk's website, YouTube channel, as well as the City of Springfield's Public Access Channel 4. I'm Betsy Moore.